The phone would not stop ringing. My sister, my parents, even my aunt. For years, they'd treated me like a personal bank while driving a car I paid for, and I'd finally had enough. I shut it all down. I canceled the insurance, the gas card, and all the streaming services tied to my name. And then I ignored their calls. The frantic, angry, and unbelievably entitled messages that blew up my phone afterward just proved I'd made the right decision. Here's how it all went down. For as long as I can remember, I was the responsible one. It sounds like a compliment, right? But in my family, it was a life sentence. It meant I was the one who studied hard, got the scholarships, and worked 2 jobs through college to graduate debt-free. It meant I landed a good job with a decent salary right out of school, while everyone else, well, they didn't. My family wasn't poor, not even close. They were just comfortable with doing the bare minimum. And most of all, comfortable with the idea that my success was their safety net. My father had worked the same blue-collar job for 30 years, content to just get by. My mother was a part-time receptionist who spent most of her money on lottery tickets and the home shopping network. And then there was my sister, Megan. Megan is 2 years younger than me, but we might as well be from different planets. I was disciplined. She was impulsive. I saved. She spent. I saw my future as something I had to build, while she saw it as something that would just be handed to her. And for the most part, it was, first by my parents and then by me. It started small. Can you spot me $50? I'll totally get you back on Monday. Of course, Monday never came. Then it got bigger. My phone just died and I need a new one for job interviews. The phone was bought, but those interviews never seemed to happen. Before I knew it, I was covering her half of the rent, then her car insurance, then her credit card bills from all the new clothes and nights out. My parents didn't just let this happen, they encouraged it. They saw my financial stability not as something I'd earned, but as a family resource. You know how Megan is, my mom would say with a sigh, like her daughter's recklessness was some charming quirk. You're doing so well, it's just wonderful that you can help her out. It was never a question. It was an expectation. I wasn't their daughter. I was a walking, talking ATM. The dynamic was set in stone. I was the workhorse, and they were living off the benefits. I'd work 60-hour weeks, budget every penny, and try to save for a small condo. They'd enjoy the fruits of my labor with a sense of entitlement that was just breathtaking. My dad would call, not to ask how I was, but to remind me that property taxes were due. My mom would text me links to furniture she wanted, followed by a winky face emoji. It was a constant, draining pressure. And for years, I let it happen. You have this deep-seated need to be loved by your family to keep the peace. I told myself I was being a good daughter and a good sister. But with every loan that was never repaid, with every bill I covered, a little piece of me curdled with resentment. They weren't just taking my money, they were taking my future. The down payment for my condo, that went to my sister's business idea, a failed Etsy shop she got bored with after a month, the vacation I'd saved up for. That paid for my father's emergency root canal, because he didn't believe in dental insurance. My life was just a series of sacrifices for their comfort. I wore clothes from 5 years ago while Megan showed off new outfits on Instagram every week. I ate ramen at my desk so I could send my mom money for a spa day because she was so stressed. They saw my frugality not as a necessity caused by their demands, but as proof that I didn't need the money anyway. You don't even do anything fun, Megan once scoffed at me. What else would you even spend it on? The irony was so thick you could choke on it. The worst part was the contempt. They didn't just take my money, they belittled me for having it. My career was a running joke at family dinners. My long hours were proof I had no life. My careful planning was mocked as uptight. They made fun of the very thing that funded their lives. It was this bizarre, toxic cycle of dependency and disdain. I was their provider, but in their eyes, I was a failure, a boring drone whose only purpose was to pay for their more exciting lives. They never once asked about my dreams, my struggles, or if I was happy. It was like my inner life was just an irrelevant, boring detail. This wasn't just a financial problem, it was an emotional one. It's the kind of abuse that doesn't leave bruises, but it hollows you out from the inside. You start to feel like you only exist for what you can give. Your worth is measured in dollars. It's an exhausting way to live, and I knew, deep down, that it couldn't last. I just didn't know what it would take to finally make me snap. The breaking point wasn't some big, dramatic explosion. It was more like 1,000 paper cuts that finally bled me dry. And the biggest paper cut of all was a metallic blue sedan. My sister, Megan, has always been terrible with cars. She'd ignore oil changes, run over curbs, and collect parking tickets like they were Pokémon cards. After her third clunker finally died, my parents sat me down for a talk. "Honey," my mother began, her voice dripping with that special kind of gentle manipulation she'd perfected. "Megan really needs a reliable car, for her safety. You wouldn't want her stranded somewhere, would you?" My father nodded gravely. "She can't get a good job without a decent car. It's an investment in her future." An investment, that's what they called it. But we all knew whose bank account that investment was coming from. I was tired, worn down from work, and just too exhausted to put up a real fight. I tried. I suggested a sensible used car. I offered to help her build her own credit to get a loan. But they were relentless, painting these horrible pictures of her in danger or her career failing, all because I was being selfish. They draped the guilt over me like a heavy blanket. So I caved. I walked into a dealership and put my name on the loan for a brand new, fully loaded car. Not just co-signed. The loan was in my name. The insurance was in my name. The down payment came from what was left of my condo fund. It was a monumentally stupid decision, and I knew it even as I signed the papers. But a desperate part of me still hoped this grand gesture would finally earn me some gratitude. It didn't. The car became Megan's prized possession and my personal symbol of indentured servitude. She drove it around like a queen in her chariot, and she never once said, "Thank you." Instead, she complained, the color wasn't exactly right. The sound system could be better. And she never, ever paid for a single thing. The monthly payment was auto-drafted from my bank account. The insurance bill came to me. I even got her a gas card, linked to my account, of course, because she claimed she couldn't afford to fill the tank. Meanwhile, her Instagram was a highlight reel of new clothes, expensive dinners, and weekend trips. She had plenty of money for everything she wanted, just not for what she needed, because I was covering that. The final snap happened at my mom's 60th birthday party. I'd spent a month planning it, found a nice restaurant, and paid for the whole thing myself. I wanted it to be special. I got there a few minutes late from work, and as I walked in, I overheard Megan holding court with our cousins. She was leaning against the bar, drink in hand, laughing loudly. "Oh, the car, it's awesome," she bragged. "My sister got it for me. She makes so much money at that boring desk job, she doesn't know what to do with it all. Honestly, it's the least she could do. I mean, what else does she spend it on? Her social life is non-existent." A few people chuckled. My face burned with pure, raw humiliation. It wasn't just the insult. It was her publicly dismissing my sacrifices, framing my generosity as some pathetic prize for having a lonely life. In that moment, something inside me didn't just break, it turned to ice. I walked right over. "Glad you're enjoying the car, Megan, and the party, which I also paid for, by the way." The smile evaporated from her face. The cousins all suddenly became fascinated by their own shoes. My mother rushed over, sensing a scene. Now, let's not fight on my birthday." "There's no fight, Mom," I said, my voice eerily calm. "Megan was just telling everyone how my boring life funds her exciting one. I was just confirming she's right." Later that night, my mom pulled me aside. I expected an apology from Megan, or at least some acknowledgement of how awful that was. Instead, she just looked at me with disappointment. "You really shouldn't have made a scene," she said. "You embarrassed your sister." I just stared at her. She embarrassed me. She belittled me in front of our family after I bought her a $30,000 car and paid for this entire party. My mother sighed, that classic, long-suffering sound. "You know she doesn't mean it. And you have to understand, it's hard for her, seeing you with so much. You could stand to be a little more gracious." Gracious? I needed to be more gracious about being used and insulted. That was it. That was the moment. All the years of resentment and swallowed anger coalesced into a single, cold point of clarity. They were never going to change. They would never see me as anything but a resource. Their love, if you could even call it that, was so conditional on what I provided that it was completely worthless. I drove home that night in a state of quiet, chilling fury. It wasn't hot anger anymore. It was a calm, calculated resolve. I was done. The ATM was closing, permanently. The next morning, I woke up with a feeling I hadn't had in years, total certainty. The usual fog of guilt and obligation was just gone. I made coffee, sat down at my laptop, and began to systematically dismantle the financial prison I'd built around myself. It was methodical, clinical, and deeply satisfying. First up, the car, Megan's Chariot. I logged into my auto insurance account. With just a few clicks, I removed her vehicle from my policy. The website flashed a warning that driving an uninsured vehicle was illegal. A small, cold smile touched my lips. Not my problem anymore, I whispered to my empty apartment. The cancellation would be effective at midnight. Next, the gas card. That was easy. I logged into the credit card portal, found the card assigned to her, and hit deactivate. A pop-up asked for a reason. I typed, "Cardholder no longer authorized." It felt so final. I pictured her at the pump, the nozzle in her tank, the screen flashing card declined. Then I started digging. I went through all my accounts, bank statements, credit cards, PayPal, hunting for every single payment I was making for them. The list was staggering. The family cell phone plan. For 5 years, I'd paid for my parents' and Megan's lines. I logged in and switched my number to an individual plan. Theirs would be suspended within days. The streaming services. I had the premium family package for everything. Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, you name it. I was the primary account holder. One by one, I went in, changed the passwords, and logged out of all devices. No more movie nights on my dime. My mom's monthly beauty box subscription. Canceled. My dad's sports magazine subscription. Canceled. Megan's premium workout app that she used maybe twice. Canceled. 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 With every click, I felt a physical weight lifting. It was a purge. I was cleansing my life of the parasites. Each cancellation was a declaration of independence, a quiet digital revolution happening in my little living room. I kept going. That automatic $500 monthly transfer to my parents' checking account, the little something to help out that had started 5 years ago and just never stopped. I found the recurring payment and hit delete. The system asked, "Are you sure?" I actually laughed out loud. "Oh, you have no idea," I said and clicked confirm. Finally, I picked up my phone. I went to my contacts. Mom, Dad, Megan, my Aunt Carol, my mom's sister and chief guilt tripper. Blocked. No calls, no texts. Then I went on social media and did the same. Blocked, blocked, blocked. The silence was immediate. My phone, which usually buzzed nonstop with requests and passive-aggressive reminders, was still. It was the most peaceful sound in the world. I knew the storm was coming, but for the first time I wasn't afraid of it. I was ready. I had spent years absorbing their drama and entitlement. Now they were about to find out what life was like without a safety net. They were about to hit the ground hard, and I wasn't going to be there to catch them. Of course, that beautiful silence didn't last long. What came next was an absolute tidal wave of panic and rage, and it proved I'd done exactly the right thing. Before I tell you about the flood of messages and how my mother tried to turn our entire family against me, I have to ask, what would you have done? Was there a better way to handle this, or was a clean break the only real option? Let me know what you think down in the comments. And if this story is hitting home for you, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more. All right, let's get into the fallout. The first sign of the storm came the next day. It started with a ping, an email from my mother. It was the one line of communication I hadn't cut. Subject, phone. It read, "Honey, my phone isn't working. Can you check the account? I tried to call you, but it went to voicemail. Love, Mom." Just confusion, no accusation yet. I read it, took a sip of my coffee, and archived it without replying. An hour later, another one, this time from my dad. Subject, urgent phone and gas. "Your mother's phone is off. So is mine. Megan just called from a friend's phone, said her gas card was declined and she's stranded. What is going on? Call me." I pictured it perfectly. Megan, fuming, probably yelling at the cashier. My dad, pacing around, confused. A tiny flicker of the old guilt tried to light up, but I smothered it with the memory of my sister laughing at my expense. I archived the email. The real deluge began that evening. They had clearly figured out their numbers were blocked, so they started coming at me from everywhere else. My work email, my LinkedIn, even my old Facebook account. I decided to start a folder on my computer called The Reckoning and began taking screenshots. This was my proof. This was why I did it. First, the panic texts, forwarded to me by a cousin who was staying out of it. From Megan, "Where are you? My car is uninsured. The police could tow it. I got an email saying you canceled it. And my gas card doesn't work. I had to get Jessica to pay. It was so embarrassing. What is wrong with you? This is your car. You have to pay for it. Call me now." Followed by, "Okay, this isn't funny. Mom said your phone is off. Are you dead? If you don't answer, I'm calling the police for a wellness check." Classic, the instant switch from rage to fake concern. The wellness check was just a power move to force me to respond. I preemptively called the non-emergency line for my local police, explained that I was fine, and that my family might make a false report over a personal dispute. The officer was surprisingly understanding. Then came the emails from my mother, each one more unhinged than the last. Email 1. "I don't know what kind of cruel game you are playing, but you are hurting this family. Your sister is hysterical. Your father is worried sick. You have a responsibility to us. You turned off our phones without warning. This is not how a good daughter behaves. Whatever we did to upset you, I am sorry, but this is a childish overreaction and you need to fix it. Now." The classic non-apology. "Whatever we did, I'm sorry." Just a demand, I archived it. Email 2 a few hours later. "I can't believe you. After everything we've done for you, we raised you, we fed you, we gave you a home. And this is how you repay us. By cutting us off because your sister made one little joke, you have always been too sensitive. Your father's blood pressure is sky high because of the stress you're causing. Do you want that on your conscience?" The guilt tripping was in full swing, using my father's health as a weapon. I felt a pang of worry, but then I remembered all the times they'd used his health to get me to pay for something. It was an old, worn-out tactic. Email 3, close to midnight, dripping with venom. "You are a selfish, ungrateful child. Megan was right about you. You are a cold, lonely person trying to punish us for being a happy family. Well, it won't work. Everyone can see you for what you are. Your Aunt Carol is disgusted. Your grandmother is so disappointed. You have ruined my birthday. I hope you're happy, all alone with your precious money." That last email solidified my resolve into something harder than diamond. She wasn't just mad the money was gone. She was furious that she had lost control. The voicemails started coming in on my work phone. I let them go to the answering service and listened to them at the end of the day. My father's voice, weak and pleading. "Sweetheart, please, just call us. Whatever is wrong, we can fix it. Your mother is, she's not handling this well." My Aunt Carol's voice, sharp and accusatory. "I don't know what got into you, but your mother is in tears. You are breaking her heart. Family is the most important thing, and you're throwing it away." And then Megan's. I almost deleted it, but morbid curiosity won. It was a 1-minute tirade of pure rage and victimhood. "Are you kidding me? You canceled everything. My phone, the insurance, even my SBOTFY. Who does that? You are trying to ruin my life, all because of one stupid comment. I have to drive around looking over my shoulder for the cops. I can't even listen to my own playlists. You are the most selfish, vindictive." Voice breaks into a sob. "I thought you were my sister. How could you do this to me? How am I supposed to live?" How was she supposed to live? The same way I had. By working, by budgeting, by being responsible. The concept was so alien to her it was like I'd asked her to build a rocket to Mars. Listening to those messages was a complex feeling. Part of me felt that deep, conditioned guilt. There was grief for the supportive, loving family I wished I had. But underneath that grief was a growing sense of vindication. Their panic wasn't about love or concern for me. It was about the services I provided. They weren't mourning me, they were mourning my wallet. And that realization was the most liberating feeling in the world. The week that followed was a masterclass in manipulation. When the angry voicemails and emails didn't work, they switched strategies. The smear campaign. My Aunt Carol became the star of the show, calling every relative we had to spin her one-sided story. In her version, I was unstable and cruel, throwing a hissy fit over a harmless joke. My phone started buzzing with texts from cousins I hadn't spoken to in years, all saying things like, "Your poor mother is a wreck, and you need to call your parents." They were trying to build an army of enablers to bully me back into line. For a minute, it felt incredibly isolating. There's a powerful stigma around cutting off family. But then I remembered the years of disrespect and the constant feeling of being used. This isolation was peaceful. Their chaos was loud. The climax came about 2 weeks later. My doorbell rang late one evening. I looked through the peephole and my blood ran cold. It was them, my mother, my father, and Megan, standing on my doorstep like a tribunal. I didn't open the door. I just stood there, my back pressed against it, and listened. "I know you're in there." My mother's voice was sharp. "Open this door right now, we need to talk." I stayed silent. My father's voice came next, softer. "Honey, please, let's just talk. This has gone on long enough." Then Megan, "Seriously, you're just going to hide? So childish. You owe us an explanation. I had to sell my designer purse to pay for car insurance. Do you know how humiliating that is?" The sheer, unfiltered entitlement of that statement almost made me laugh out loud. She was humiliated because she had to pay for her own things for the first time in her adult life. The disconnect from reality was just astounding. They stood there for another 10 minutes, knocking and pleading. Finally, my mother let out a frustrated scream, and I heard them walk away, muttering angrily. That was the last time they tried to contact me. The well was dry. The months that followed were a journey of rediscovering myself and my own money. The amount I had left over at the end of each month was shocking. I paid off my credit card debt in 3 months. 6 months later, I had a respectable down payment for a condo again. This time, it was all for me. More than the financial freedom was the emotional freedom. The constant, low-grade anxiety I'd lived with for years just faded. For the first time, my life was my own. It's a strange and wonderful feeling, but it's also tinged with sadness. It's a weird kind of grief. They're still out there, but they're gone from my life. Holidays were tough at first, but I started building my own traditions with my chosen family, my friends who had my back through all of it. I started therapy to unpack the years of abuse. My therapist helped me see that cutting them off wasn't cruel. It was an act of self-preservation. I did get one final update about a year later from my neutral cousin. It was as predictable as it was pathetic. My father had to take on extra shifts. My mother had to get a full-time job. And Megan? She had to sell the shiny blue sedan. She couldn't afford the payments or the insurance without me. She was driving a 15-year-old beater and, according to my cousin, complaining about it nonstop. They were struggling, forced to live within their own means for the first time, and they were miserable. A part of me should have felt bad, but I didn't. I felt a quiet sense of justice. They weren't struggling because I wronged them. They were struggling because they were finally facing the consequences of their own choices. I hadn't ruined their lives. I had just stopped letting them ruin mine. Looking back, the silence that followed my decision was the most telling part. When the money stopped, so did the relationship. It laid bare the truth that had been hiding in plain sight for years. I wasn't a daughter or a sister to them. I was a line of credit. Cutting off my family was the hardest and best decision I've ever made. It brought me a peace I never thought was possible, but it also came with grief for the family I deserved but never had. The experience taught me a brutal but valuable lesson about boundaries. They aren't walls to keep people out. They're the lines you draw to show where you end and other people begin. They are the ultimate act of self-respect. My life now is smaller in some ways, fewer family gatherings, fewer obligatory calls. But it's also infinitely larger. It's filled with real relationships, financial security, and the freedom to build a future on my own terms. And I finally bought that condo. It's not huge, but every square inch of it is mine, paid for by my own hard work, for my own peace. And that is a luxury no amount of money can ever buy. Thank you so much for listening to my story. This was a really difficult part of my life, but sharing it helps. If my experience resonated with you, or if you've been through something similar, I'd be honored if you'd share your thoughts in the comments below. And please, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories about navigating life's challenges. Remember, you always have the right to protect your peace. See you next time.